Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Leppy Duels, our first double-digit episode. I'm your host, Jacob Arvidson, and we are once again presented by Jarvie Media this week. Those of you at home, thanks so much for being with us. Thanks for subscribing. You are now entered into our giveaway, our big money giveaway as promised. We've got a nice stack of discs to give to one of you guys. Here's what's on the line for you today. First, we've got a brand new Orange Z Nuke, courtesy of Wolfpack Disc, with the Wolfpack Disc stamp in blue on the front. Looks fantastic. We've also got a yellow limited edition Crystal Flex Scorch with the Great Lakes Disc stamp, quadruple misprint stamp that is, even better. We've got another misprint double stamp, limited edition Z Swirl Zone, beautiful yellow color with a blue stamp, also courtesy of Great Lakes Discs. Thank you guys for that. We've got a Clint Calvin Signature Edition Flow from Latitude 64, beautiful black color with a purple stamp. It's got some nice inner swirls, kind of glistens in the light here. Awesome disc, nice and domey pop top. And then finally, rounding out our stack for our winner of this episode's giveaway, we've got a Trevor Harbolt 2022 Icebreaker. Beautiful clear disc here. He's riding a narwhal on this one. This year he's riding a turtle, but last year he rode a narwhal, and he even signed it for you. So you're probably wondering, how do I win this stack of discs? Well, it's pretty simple. First, you got to be subscribed to the channel. So if you haven't done that yet, smash that subscribe button, like the video while you're at it. We appreciate you. Next, you're going to want to leave a comment saying one of the people on today's show sent you. So if you want to choose me, go for it. I am an option. Jacob sent me. That's all you have to put in the comments. If you want to use another contestant's name, I would recommend doing that because they're more popular than I am. Go ahead and throw them in there. Trevor sent me, Papa Wolf sent me. However you want to do it, that's all you need to do to be entered. The contestant with the most votes for their name and the most people that they sent, we will pool that group of contestants or people together and pick a winner from that list. And you will be sent the entire stack of 5 beautiful discs here. So thanks for listening to my spiel. Here's how the show works if you haven't been here before. We'll meet our 4 distinguished guests here in a moment. Once they're here, each of them will go 1v1 versus each other in a series of duels. And they'll each have 1 minute within those duels to deliver their points on the assigned debate topics, along with an additional 20 seconds to respond to their opponent's comments. After that, I, as the host, will determine a winner of each duel, and the first one to fill up their scoring bar wins the episode. Let's meet this week's guests. First up, you already heard it. This year he's riding a turtle. Last year he rode a narwhal. He's sponsored by DGA, Mr. Trevor Harbolt. Next up, he's the brand manager at Great Lakes Disc and has graciously donated part of the giveaway stack this week. We appreciate you, Brian Papa Wolf Frawley. Next up, he's the brand manager at Latitude 64, Mr. Seth Fendley. And finally, rounding out the cast, joining us from Houston, Texas, once again, Matt Stillwagon. Thanks for joining us, guys, this week. Trevor, Brian, you're going to be up first. Paige Pierce had a disappointing performance at the Music City Open. What are you guys taking away from one of the best players of all time? And more importantly, where is her career trajectory headed at this point? Trevor, you're up first.
My takeaway from her weekend is just, it's golf, man. It's hard to be the best every weekend and do completely your best every weekend. Put all the energy into it. Plus, let's look at it in a different way, man. Paige is happy right now. If you know her and you know you play with her or see her on the course, she's super happy. She's in an awesome place in her life right now. So I don't think it really means as much as everybody in the fan base wants it to mean. But she's doing, Paige Pierce things, and she's still a world champion 5 times over, and she's probably going to win another one before it's over, maybe even 2, maybe 3, who knows. So I think you put her on, against anybody, the field, I'm still picking Paige. She's greatness, and I like watching greatness. And I don't think you can just take away from one tournament and a long season and a long career and say, hey, what's their trajectory with their career? Is it going to go down or is it going to go up? It's just we're golfers, and every weekend we can't be our best. So,
Well said. Brian, where are you going with this one?
Well, my takeaway from the weekend is everybody has an off weekend. It didn't look like it was exactly the best weather out there. The conditions weren't great. The footing was awkward in many spots, so everybody gets a pass when it comes to that. The question of where her trajectory is going is the real interesting part of the debate. The trajectory is what we're going to see in the next 1 to 5 years, I would say. I don't think we're going to see her win 5 championships. She's already got 5. I think that would be very challenging. She has already won this year, which is great. She is at 17 majors, so she needs one more of those to tie Kenny at 18, as does Paul, so that's really important. But over the last 4 years, she's only gone below 970 in her rating once. She's over the last 6 years, she's only done it twice. I think her trajectory is plateaued. I don't think she's going to skyrocket back up, but I think we all have to be honest and say, I don't think it's going to be as good as it's been in the last 10 years.
All right, so both of you said, yeah, we're giving Paige a pass for multiple reasons at MCO. But yeah, let's attack the trajectory part of this question, Trevor.
I guess it's my rebuttal time. I think that Brian, everything Brian said's pretty much true, right? I don't think of the plateau thing. I think that Paige has still got some world championships in her. I think she's still got a lot to prove. And she's still one of the top 3 golfers in the world. Every weekend we're going to wonder if it's Kristen, Paige, or Katrina. So I don't think she's plateaued. I think we still see her win 2 or 3 world championships.
All right, 2 or 3 worlds. That's a bold statement. Brian, what do you got to say to Trevor?
I'm glad Trevor walked back his he would pick her over the field anytime statement and then added a few more in his rebuttal, which is really important. Yeah, plateau means she's not going to giant rise after this. I don't think we're going to see a new level of Paige Pierce after this. Doesn't mean we can't enjoy the plateau, but I don't think we're going to see her as a 1,000 rated female. I don't think we're going to see 2 or 3 more world championships. But doesn't mean she's not great, and we're not going to be excited to watch her.
Trevor, Brian, thanks so much for your points there. I think, Brian, you kind of called Trevor out for a second, kind of walking back his previous statement, and that's the reason I'm going to give Brian the win in this duel. Trevor did kind of walk back what he said about Paige, and then he kind of twisted things around a little bit. And honestly, 2 to 3 world titles with Kristen Tatar in the field is a tough task, to be honest. So Brian takes a win here in duel number 1. Duel number 2, Seth and Matt. Seth, you're going to be up first. What's the most important part from Simon this past weekend? What should we be taking away here? Seth, go for it.
Yeah, I think for me, I probably waffled back and forth on this more than I should, but I'm going to stick with my initial thought that he stuck in it in rounds 1 and 2. I think that one of the things that we hear Brian and Trevor talk about in regards to Paige's play is just like how bad the conditions were. And the reality is that Simon is sometimes a fair weather disc golfer. And the fact that he stuck in it, he was 1 off of the lead after round 1. He was 4 off of the lead after round 2, and then just turned on the burners in round 3 when the conditions improved. I think that he stuck with it is the key takeaway here. And the other, I think, part of this is sort of what does this mean for him moving forward? And I think moving forward, he's sort of solidified himself by being one of 3 people to ever win twice at an Elite Series or Major off of the chase card, right behind Ken Climo and Paul McBeth. And I think that's a pretty interesting stat to take away from this.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. Matt, what's your takeaway from Simon's win? What's your impression?
Wow, what a great finish for the man. I'll put it to you this way. As you well know, I oftentimes talk about how it has to be more than just the game, than just about the game. And I think Simon is, and coming back from the chase card is a great story. It's just a great story. And that's the kind of stuff that we should be celebrating and talking about in the game in general. I also like the fact that, I mean, he's not with the same company that he used to be. He's doing it with another company, and I think that that's kind of cool too. I think too many of these guys get hung up on, oh, it's got to be just about the plastic that you throw. No, it's also about the technique and the talent of the person throwing any plastic out there as well. And I think it's just, he's an overall great story. I'm a big Simon fan, to be honest with you. I don't care, yeah, he may be sometimes a fair weather disc golfer, and yeah, he's stuck with it. But to me, the story of the comeback kid coming back from the chase card, that's the takeaway.
Okay, so Seth, you threw some nice stats in there. Matt, I love that you brought in the switch to MVP this year for Simon. What does this do for Simon in the grander scheme of disc golf? Where does it rank him? I mean, we talked about Mount Rushmore last week. What does it do for him in the grand scheme of things, Seth?
Yeah, so I think that what I led off or closed with previously, him being one of three to win from a chase card, I think that really shows us where it's putting him in the field, right? He has tied Ricky Wysocki for the most amount of Elite Series or major wins in the past year and a half. If you go back from the beginning of 2022 until right now, he's tied with Ricky Wysocki. He's not tied with Paul McBeth. He's not tied with Calvin Heimberg or Gannon Burr. All of those guys are below him. It's just Simon and Ricky at the top. And so I think that what we're seeing here is, in one stat, Simon's tied with Ricky. In another stat, Simon's tied with Ken Climo and Paul McBeth. And that should tell us pretty clear as day the trajectory that Simon's on in regards to where he's going to be over the next few years.
I love it. Matt, where's Simon headed? Where does it put him in disc golf?
Sure, his trajectory is definitely upward, and I think that the statistics that Seth brings up are are very valid. I'll also say this, though. I think as we're seeing more and more talented disc golfers, I think more and more of these records are going to start to go down. I'm liking seeing it. I'm reading a lot of stories about more and more tournaments of guys coming off the chase card, and I think that speaks to the diversity of disc golf and gives more players that hope, that puncher's chance that if I can just hang in there for those few rounds and turn it on. I mean, it's a feel-good story. It's great for him as a trajectory, but really right now it's another win. Yes, it's definitely a DGPT win, but it is what it is.
Seth, you're taking a very statistical approach to this, and I think if we're looking at trajectory, I think that's the important thing to look at here. And the stats you rattled off were brilliant, just kind of showing what company Simon's keeping right now and where he's going. So for that reason, I'm going to give Seth the win here in duel number 1, or duel number 2. Sends us to duel number 3. Matt, you are staying in the battlefield. You're taking on Trevor. What is your take on the status of college disc golf? We saw the College Disc Golf Nationals this past weekend and everything that unfolded there play-wise and a couple of issues with management and the PDGA. So where are we at with college disc golf in general? Matt, you're up.
I'm going to start by apologizing to Trevor because this is the question that I boned up for, to be entirely honest with you. When I got this question, I actually interviewed somebody who played in this year's collegiate championship. Then I interviewed his father as a spectator and a disc golfer as well. And while they'll choose to remain anonymous for reasons that'll become obvious, it seemed to be a sentiment that's echoed throughout. We have a college system that could be very, very good if it would get better organized. What I found out today about what it takes to make the national championships is almost a joke. And that's why it's not being taken seriously as a major. They disqualified a player this weekend because of the fact that he didn't make a time for a match play that had no bearing on the championship series whatsoever. And while it is every disc golfer's responsibility to know the rules and know their tee times, I think it speaks even more so that the reason that the PDGA is getting nailed on this is because of the fact that they got it wrong to begin with as well. Too much confusion, not enough clarity, and not a legitimate regular season or qualifying series to get into it. That's why it's not a major and the fans aren't catching on.
All right, Matt's got some fire he's shooting here. Trevor, where are you going with this one? What's the status of college disc golf?
What? there's college disc golf. That's the problem, man. They want mainstream people, but they don't have mainstream things. The PDGA is not mainstream. The Disc Golf Pro Tour is mainstream. So what I think should happen possibly is let the PDGA get away from it, just like they did with the Pro Tour, right? Like all the Elite Series, they gave it to the Pro Tour, now look where it's at. So it's about promotion. If you have Jomez or GK Pro filming the college national championships, it would get a lot more headway, get a lot more things you could do with it. But I think that the problem is the PDGA is running it, and we've seen the PDGA run things before, and it just doesn't work. And I think somebody else should do it. Maybe, I don't know who, but I can't give you that answer. But I think that you should let somebody else take care of it, because it's always a PDGA problem if you ask me.
All right, so you both kind of attacked the organizational aspect of why college disc golf is struggling, especially in regards to national championships. Matt, you were kind of broader scope. Trevor, you kind of hammered on the PDGA. Take those and run with it. Matt, why should you win this duel?
Well, here's something that should tell you something, Trevor. It's not even fully run by the PDGA. Did you know that in order to play in a regional qualifier, which is all that it takes to get you to the finals, I might add, you only have to play in a conference qualifier. A conference qualifier doesn't even have to be sanctioned, as a matter of fact. I watched the final I watched the final round of this year's college championship. What a wasted opportunity to showcase some really decent golfers with some goofy formats that make zero sense whatsoever. This is the one time you'll hear me say they should simplify it and make it like college golf. Bring your 5 best players, have your ones play against other ones, go on through it, take your top 4 scores, give that your average. Not this weird average D1, D2, D3 individual average play followed by 14 doubles alternate shot. It was embarrassing.
I like it, Matt. Strong statements for sure. Trevor, what do you got on your rebuttal?
I mean, I understand what he's talking about. The format's crazy, and the way to get in is crazy. But look, we're a young sport. We still don't even have qualifiers for the Pro Tour right. We still don't have qualifiers for all these other things right. We have 1 million C tiers a year, 500 B tiers a month. I mean, it's the way the PDGA runs things is really the problem, man. And we need to fix it. And we need somebody in there that's doing the right things. So I think that the PDGA just needs to look at the broader situation here and figure out what's wrong with it and figure it out and fix it. But the problem is they don't really care.
All right, Trevor, you hammered on the PDGA. I love that you did that. Definitely an issue with what's going on. They're absolutely part of it, so I'm glad you brought that up. Matt, you kind of attacked the whole thing as a whole, and you dove into, which I appreciated, the whole qualification aspect, the behind-the-scenes struggles, why it's a mess organizationally, and you did point out the biggest part, which is the PDGA is not completely to blame here. There's other parties involved that are causing equal problems, if not more. And I think for that reason, you've got the leg up in this duel. So Matt's going to take the win here in duel number 3. Sends us to duel number 4. Seth and Brian, you guys are up. I think 3 of the last 4 championship speeches have addressed the issue of agents, fake agents, stuff like that in the sport of disc golf. So this question is based on that for you guys. If you were starting your own disc golf agency to represent players, manufacturers, whoever, where are you starting? What are you specializing in? Brian, you're up first.
I think if I was starting an agency today, I'd still want to be player focused. Although it's important to diversify your income streams and bring in maybe manufacturers or bring in companies like Disc Dice and things like that. I'm going to focus on players, and it'd be really simple to say, like, let's just grab Simon, Brody, Paul, Kristen, grab all those people, because in this fake scenario, I have millions and millions of money. But they are established, and they have brands, and they make good money for their current agency. If I was opening an agency today, I would go after players that aren't currently represented by, I would say, major representation, and I would find ones that do more than just disc golf. So the ones that I think of right away is someone like Allie Smith, Trevor's DGA teammate, who is currently on the road selling a ton of plastic for DGA. She hopped in this week on Joe Maz to do a little coverage. She's a great player, finished top 10 as well. That's someone that's marketable. I would find diverse players in that aspect.
Yeah, so I'm going in a completely different direction, which is going to make this very interesting. I really think that we need to focus on, as an agent, I would want to focus on bringing in outside sponsorships. I think that we know that the manufacturers are already getting tapped dry of what they can do for players, and really the next big step are the bigger players like Nike, Under Armour, even some of the big box stores like Dick's Sporting Goods or Academy. And that's what I would go after. I think, to Brian's point, the players at the top already have representation. And so I would be serving as that sort of conduit between either those existing players with representation or new and upcoming players to get them into those areas. And the real specialty, though, that I think that I bring to this is that I have really the connections across all of the brands. I have connections with both the players and the manufacturers in the sport. And that really helps to serve as that sort of go-between to get to where we need to go.
All right, so Seth is representing the bigger picture of the sport. He's fluffing and using his connections. Brian, you're targeting kind of the second-tier players who don't have major representation. Why is your approach better, Brian?
My approach is better because Seth led off saying he wasn't going to worry about getting sponsorships from disc golf, and then closed with he would get his connections from disc golf. So that's a tough miss right there. Focusing on the players is still going to be the key in growth. As Trevor said earlier, we're still a young sport. It's still players that are the key. Focus on them, build their brands, diversify them.
All right, Seth, he took some shots at you. Why is your approach better?
Yeah, so the reality is that the way that sponsorships work right now, it's really weird and somewhat backwards in that sometimes players have to actually get agreements from their disc manufacturers to be sponsored by other entities. And so having those connections to be able to get the larger outside sponsorships for the players, I think is key. And the thing that Brian misses about all of this is that ultimately we can all keep just trading money back and forth if we want to keep dealing with manufacturers and whatnot. But if we really want to see the sport grow, we have to bring in the outside money. And that's where my agency would succeed in this, as Brian said, fictional scenario that we've created.
All right. Well, I love both of your fictional scenarios. Thank you for coming up with those. You both delivered great points to back up your statements. However, I like Brian's point, and referring back to Trevor as well, that the players are what drives this sport at this point in its young infancy. Once we get bigger, Seth, I totally agree with you. Right now, Brian, I got to go with you for this point here in duel number 4. So Brian takes the win, sends us to the next one. Seth, you're going to stay on the battlefield taking on Trevor. What is the best sport for disc golfers to come from, in your opinion? Take it away, Seth.
Yeah, so I'm going to take what might be the easy stance. I don't know. Trevor might have a better one. But I feel like the answer is baseball. We've seen it be sort of the natural progression for two of our highest paid and highest ranked players in the sport, in Ricky Wysocki and Paul McBeth. We know that it gives them sort of a natural throwing motion that they're already comfortable with, that they're able to translate directly over to the sport. And so baseball is where it's at for me. I think that we're seeing, even to the level that we have professional Major League Baseball players using this as off-season training, using this as a way to stay engaged with what they're doing outside of their normal baseball games. And so I think that the answer here is baseball.
All right, Trevor, he took baseball. What sport are you taking?
First of all four of you, even you, have You guys have used some of my stuff tonight saying, hey, Trevor said this, Trevor said that. I feel like I'm a gatekeeper right now. Anyways, it is baseball. Baseball is the answer, Seth. You are correct, but you went about it the wrong way. There's a lot of pro athletes that use disc golf as their training. Andre Agassi plays from tennis, so tennis players do it really well too. But let me be real. Ken Griffey Jr. has the pure swing in baseball, and he wasn't that big of a guy. And he had such bat speed that he could hit the ball a really long way. And if you think about it, the power pocket that we have in disc golf is the same power pocket that we have in baseball as a left-handed swinger. Also, you have sidearm coming from third base or shortstop going to first base. That's like a nice little easy thing to go into disc golf with, is that nice little sidearm. So baseball is the correct answer, and it's also because you have a nice pivot. Baseball players have pivots when they swing the bat. So everything is incorporated with baseball, even though tennis, golf, and all kinds of other sports will also help with your sport of disc golf.
All right, Trevor. Well said, Seth. He brought in some very form-specific points to back up baseball. Why should you win this duel over Trevor?
Yeah, so the fun part about this format is that I had the opportunity to speak first. And so I was the first person to talk about baseball. And I really appreciate Trevor for really just slamming home. He hit a home run as to why baseball is the winning answer. And he just really backed me up there. And so I think it's clear Trevor even supports the topic that I brought up here, which is baseball. And so at the end of the day, you either go with the guy who said it first or you go with the guy who said it better. And I don't really care which way it goes.
All right, Trevor, can you bring it home for yourself? He gave you an opportunity.
It's pretty easy. I'm going to take all the brownie points I can on this one. Let me be honest. Baseball is the best sport. It's how I do my clinics. Every person that has done a clinic with me has learned about Ken Griffey Jr. and about the swing of the baseball bat to be smooth and fast instead of powerful and hard. So baseball is the way to go. But let's be honest, golf is also in there too. The head speed of a golf club gets your ball to go a lot further. So if your arm speed is faster, the disc will go a lot further.
All right, Trevor, you're trying to talk yourself out of a potential win here by bringing in another sport after you already doubled down on baseball. However, Seth, you did have an advantage going first, but I'm still going to give this win to Trevor. He had much better points to back it up, and I love that he brought in his clinic and how he uses Ken Griffey Jr. I think that's important there. So Trevor takes the win, sends us to our final duel. Matt is the only one standing in Brian's way of a victory here without a tiebreaker. So you guys are debating this is kind of a throwback to Brian's question from a couple weeks ago and his answer to that. But if you could promote 2 events from a Silver Series or an A tier up to the Pro Tour and relegate 2 events from the Pro Tour right now to send them down, what events would those be? Brian, you've got the floor first.
Yeah, since first brought up on this wonderful show, relegation, what a great concept that would be for disc golf. I think it would really help our brand in general and create more excitement and bring in our European friends who are used to it from soccer. That being said, no offense to any of the lovely people that work for Dynamic Discs or their subsidiaries, but the DDO is the most boring disc golf tournament to watch all year, and I watch, 30 C-tier flex starts live every weekend. So DDO, it's boring, it's unfortunate, it's hard to watch. When people throw perfect shots and then the wind blow them out of bounds like happens, it's bad to watch. Not my favorite thing. But let's bring in another European event. Let's bring in Throw Down the Mountain. And then, I'm sorry, Jeff, but LVC's got to go. It's also boring to watch. Sorry. Let's start somewhere else, too.
All right, Matt, you heard what Brian had to say. What 2 events are you promoting? What 2 are you relegating? Go for it.
Okay, so I took a look at this year's schedule, and just right off the bat, as much as I think it'd be awesome to play a tournament in Norway, when you look at the Elite Series schedule, it's the only Elite Series one that's listed on there, the PCS Open. It's so far out of the way of the rest of the tour schedule, it's an anomaly. It's almost like watching the NFL go to London and play. It really doesn't do anything for me. If you had 2 or 3 of those elite events that were over there, then maybe that'd be better. I would also, and half of my state is getting ready to hate me for saying this, but I'm going to say that the Austin Open should not be an Elite Series event. I'm going to throw Paul Macbeth in front of me and say, just watch what he had to say about it itself, along with some other things. I love those guys over there. I think in the future it could be there, but I think they still need more time with it. The other tournament that I would say to promote above the Austin Open is to make Texas State's a Elite Series event. It was well received. The guys around here did a very good job with it, and if it stays in Houston, then I think that works out well. The second one that I would promote, and this is selfish because of my second home and the courses are beautiful, in the future I would like to see the Maine State Championships as an Elite Series event, because those people are awesome, have phenomenal courses, and it is an unserved, gorgeous, beautiful set of disc golf that you don't see anywhere else in the world.
All right, so let's focus on the differences, which is basically all four of them. Kind of hammer on, if you could, in your rebuttals, one or two of your opponent's decisions and why they're the wrong decision, to be honest. Brian, you get to go first.
Well, as everybody agreed to on this panel already, the players drive this sport, and the players don't like DDO, and many complain about LVC. That being said, Austin had a first crack at this, and I think -2 holes, that event was pretty good. So let's focus on bringing more European players into this. Let's focus on maybe starting the tour in someplace warm like Spain, and then coming over here and getting 2 stops in Europe. Let's do it. Seth said he'd buy me a ticket.
All right, Brian, you've got some good points. Matt, you did bring up Europe and potentially removing Europe in some shape or form. So address that if you could, and why you deserve to win this duel.
Well, 2 reasons. I put up 2 replacements for both of my eliminations, first of all, which is what the question asked for. The other thing is, though, I think that, the European side of it works well. But again, it's almost needs to have, it's becoming big enough in Europe. DGPT could almost do its own DGPT Europe tour and be just as effective, and then bring them together that way. I'm all for bringing those guys in, but it's going to take more than just one event over there, or just one additional. I think you need like 3 or 4. There's some great places to play in Europe that you kind of can't leave off the map if you're having the players go over there, and vice versa in the U.S.
All right, I like both your statements. I like both the ways you went with it. Matt, I love that you brought in Maine. I think that is absolutely an underserved disc golf area that's both gorgeous and has a great community. So I'm glad you highlighted that. DDO, though, Brian, and LVC, I think you hit the nail on the head with those potentially needing to get knocked down and replaced. It's boring, and that is what it is. So for that reason, I'm going to give you the edge here. Brian takes the clean sweep, 3 for 3. Wins episode 10. You've got the stage. What do you have for the people?
Well, in the spirit of diversity, what I've been plugging all throughout this evening's episode, next time you're on your Instagram there, head over to some of the European disc golf stops or the European players and start to follow all of them. Maybe go into South America and follow some players from down there. For me, I'm not bilingual. I barely speak Spanish, but it's nice to be able to connect a few ways here and there. Plus, it's a great way to see what other great courses are out there in the world and what other people are throwing. So go out of your way, go follow 200 new people from a couple different countries. It'd be amazing how much more positive your feed is.
I love it. I like the positive spin you just took there to finish out with your championship speech. Thank you so much, Brian. Congrats to you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for winning. Good stuff. Trevor, Seth, Matt, thanks for joining us as well. Appreciate all 4 of you being on the show with us tonight. Hopefully you all at home enjoyed it as well. If you haven't done it yet, make sure you comment down below with one of these guys or me to enter yourself into our big money giveaway. That winner will be announced on next week's episode, so stay tuned for that. I hope all of you take the time to enter, and I'm excited to send one of you a nice giant stack of discs. Until then, enjoy your weekend. We'll see you guys next week.